Welcome everybody. My name is Dr. Liz Musil and I'm the IRB coordinator at Columbia Southern University. And today we're going to talk about the Institutional Review Board and IRB. What is IRB? The Institutional Review Board, or IRB, is responsible for ensuring that all Columbia Southern University research complies with the university's ethical standards as well as U.S. federal regulations. The IRB at CSU bases its goals on the following. First of all, to protect human subjects. Secondly, to develop and maintain an ethical research environment at CSU. Thirdly, to assure that researchers are qualified to conduct research. And fourth, to assure that the research has the potential to add value to the academic community and society. Composition and membership requirements. The IRB at CSU is composed of full-time faculty and the academic program director of the Doctor of Business Administration, or DBA, program at CSU. The provost of the university is a non-voting member who enforces institutional responsibility for IRB. The board is represented by faculty members who have graduate research experience. At least one member of the IRB must have scientific academic interests, and at least one member must have non-scientific interests. All IRB members have completed the city training for IRB members. The IRB chair is responsible for reporting IRB membership information to the provost of CSU. Responsibilities and jurisdiction. IRB has three primary responsibilities. One, to provide continuous quality improvement for research within the university. Two, to review and approve research proposals that involve human subjects. And three, to monitor ongoing research that involves human subjects. The IRB is responsible for continuous quality improvement via self-evaluation. The results of this evaluation, as well as a summary of activities of the year, are submitted in an annual report to the provost. What is the purpose of IRB? Okay, so as we are talking about, the purpose of IRB is to assure, both in advance and by periodic review, that appropriate steps are taken to protect the rights and welfare of humans participating as subjects in the researcher. So you as the researcher will be completing the city training and IRB application and approval before selecting participants, gathering data, or doing any research activities. And what this does is it protects the university and makes sure that all the actions of all the researchers or students are ethically correct and protect human subjects, but also protects the student from activities that are against the law or unethical or just something that you didn't know you couldn't do. So that's why you have the training beforehand. So prior to performing data collection and submitting your IRB application, each student will complete the university-mandated human subject research training offered by the Collaborative Institute of Training Initiative, which is also known as the CITY program. And this is an online course that you will take that takes a few hours, probably something like 3 hours, maybe 4 hours. And there are quizzes throughout the course, and at the end of successful completion, you will get a certificate. And you will forward that certificate with all your IRB application documents, and it will be kept on file by the university. So steps to IRB approval. When you get to the stage where your proposal is approved, your chair will direct you to complete the city training, and then you'll earn your certificate. When you go to the DWRC, and we'll take a look at that screen, there are IRB documents and instructions. So on the left side, when you scroll down, there is an IRB tab, and in there, there's all the documentation that you will need to complete with your chair, and supporting documents besides the application, as well as instructions and examples, so you will have some guidance on how to do it. Then the chair acts on your behalf and forwards your completed application and package with all your supporting documents to IRB for approval. IRB will review everything, return it to your chair if there's any questions or anything is omitted, and then once you have approval, you will be allowed to begin conducting your research. So, IRB's ethics review and approval is required before participant recruitment, data collection, or dataset access. Columbia Southern University will not grant credit for student work that was conducted without IRB ethics approval or otherwise failed to comply with IRB requirements. So there's a couple of things here. If you start conducting research before you have IR approval, and that's selecting participants, talking to people, interviewing, any activity that engages others, that will not be acceptable by the university, and also it is a violation. It's a strict no-no. So you need to have your IRB approval before really conducting any of these activities. Records retention. All IRB activities are documented, and all records relating to the normal activity of the IRB are maintained within the student's file at CSU. Documentation relating to specific research is mandated for a minimum of 3 years after the research concludes. There's a couple of things that you will be learning about. One is privacy issues in research. 2 privacy issues must be considered in research. The first consideration is confidentiality, protecting the identity of the subjects who volunteered to provide private information for the research. This issue is handled in the research design of the project. The second issue is that of invasion of privacy, accessing personal information about an individual without permission or consent. Acquisition of private information must follow all legal standards and procedures. So there's something called informed consent. Informed consent is a critical component in preserving the rights of human subjects involved or participating in research that should be considered an ongoing process. Prospective human participants must be given sufficient information about the research procedure, its purpose, any risk or benefit of participating, any therapeutic procedural alternatives, and the opportunity to ask questions or withdraw from the study without bias or penalty. Investigators must ascertain whether the individual has sufficient comprehension of the information to make responsible decisions about their participation in the research. The conditions under which the decisions to participate is made must be free of coercion or undue influence, such that the decision to participate is strictly voluntary. Any information obtained during the course of research that may influence a subject's decision to continue participating in the research must be provided to the subject immediately. So, a detailed written process has been established for all IRB applications, along with specific forms to support the applications. IRB documents are available in the DWRC. In the IRB folder, you will find IRB application forms plus examples of the introductory email, confidentiality statement, informed consent for qualitative or quantitative, and a certificate of originality. The examples are for your reference, and you can consult with your dissertation chair about any modifications or completions of the documentation. And once again, I think all the chairs are pretty well versed on how to complete this. So if you have any questions, please talk to your chair. And really, most applications are returned or for more information if they're incomplete. So you want to make sure that you have completed everything properly. Again, it's not difficult. You have examples, but this is one of those situations where things kind of need to be precise. So they need to be in alignment with your approved proposal. And those are all the types of things that will be checked. Selection of subjects. Researchers must use objective and unbiased strategies for selecting individuals to participate as subjects in research. Selections must be equitable such that the diversity at any level, race, sexual orientation, gender, economic status, etc., is not a consideration for participation unless the research is designed expressly and appropriately to address questions about specific groups. Assignment to experimental and/or control groups must be random, and compensation for participation in the form of but not limited to payment or free service or treatments cannot be excessive such that it poses undue enticement or incentive for prospective subjects to participate in the research. So basically, really what this is saying is, sometimes it helps to give a thank you to participants after they give you the information, maybe something of minimal value like a Starbucks card or something like that, but there's no bias or coercion. So that would be, a minimal Starbucks card of maybe $25 is very different than enticing participants with gold coins, right? So you don't want to bribe people, you just want to make sure. And if you are, incentivizing anyone, and you don't have to, I didn't incentivize any of my participants, talk to your chair about what is appropriate. Protected classes. For information on research on other protected groups, students may consult the federal regulations or members of IRB. Protected classes include pregnant women, prisoners, children and minorities, cognitively comprised individuals, students, and employers. Please note, as I already mentioned, here we've got a click of the DWRC where you can see on the right-hand side IRB process and documentation. There's a bunch of forms and examples for you to download and play with. So all areas of applications must be filled in. You don't want to delay your approval process. Right now, we do not try to hold on. We want you to move forward quickly, but we want to make sure that the information is correct. And generally, if you submit a completed, accurate package, or your chair does, you should have an answer within 24 to 48 hours. So we're really trying to make sure that this whole process is streamlined as much as possible. Quality of your proposal. The IRB evaluates the quality of the researcher's proposal to determine if the research as planned addresses the researcher's stated objectives. This is not an attempt to assure that all research is successful. It's an assurance for CSU and for the human subjects involved in the research that the proposal is complete and sound. Items IRB may consider include, but are not limited, is to privacy of information, research design as it affects protection of human subjects. So what's being looked at is clear and concise statements of the research hypothesis, written in terms that are understandable to non-scientist members of IRB, and a full description of all procedures, a description of the subject population, including gender and racial ethnic composition and criteria for the inclusion or exclusion of any subpopulation, a description of the means by which the subjects will be recruited, and a discussion of all risks to subjects and how such risks will be minimized, including copies of all survey instruments, consent forms, assent forms, recruitment flyers, sample recruitment letters, and advertisements, as well as the application. The documents in the folder at the DWRC follow the IRB process as you work within the perimeters of the IRB approval. And once you get to this stage, this is not really to overwhelm you right now, but it's just to kind of direct you and giving you kind of an overarching perspective of what happens before you conduct your research. Basically, there's some training and there's some rules to follow. That's really what you need to really know about. So all research involving human subjects conducted by students or faculty persons affiliated with CSU must be on file with IRB and approved before the research commences. The researcher must complete and submit an institutional review board application along with appropriate supporting paperwork, survey, communication tools associated with implementing the research, informed consent documents, etc. Research must also submit an electronic training recorded document of the completion of their city training for social and behavioral scientific research. Upon receipt and initial review of the submitted materials, IRB will inform the researcher whether the application has achieved exempt status or requires non-exempt review per IRB review. Applications requesting exemption from review must include sufficient documentation that the research does not fall under any category or criterion requiring non-exempted, expedited, or full review. Applications requiring non-exempt expedited review may be reviewed by the chairperson. Okay, so basically, most straightforward research that kind of fits within the general box is exempt, so you don't need to worry about that. Your chair will give you guidance if they feel like your proposed study is non-exempt. So you need to use the documents in the IRB folder at the DWRC, follow the instructions and process, work with your dissertation chair and for completing the documents or the package, and your chair will work on your behalf, submitting the documents to IRB, and IRB will review. Questions go back to the chair will contact you, and that's really about it. So of course, feel free to reach out to IRB as well if you have any questions or if your chair cannot assist you. And that's basically all I wanted to talk to you about today. So best of luck with your dissertation, and thank you for listening to this presentation.